evening. Would like to mention tonight is a test of the live streaming of this meeting, and we have Heath Gilbert in the back there, and I believe it's his wife's joined him, but we appreciate your work on this. And this live streaming is an initiative by the City Council to help get the word out to the residents and make it where they can watch it from their residence. There's going to be a link on our city webpage. You can just go into that, click on it, and you can watch that on your computer. And so you're aware of that. But thank City Council for their efforts in this, and the staff. I know the staff's been involved in it. So that's tonight. They're just checking to see if everything works before they publicize it too much. So I've asked Councilor, excuse me, Bren Ellis if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
The audience would please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
This time in the meeting, we usually take a moment of silence. I'd like to take a moment of silence this evening as we remember and appreciate those who serve in our military that protect our nation and serve here at home and also around the world, helping to protect the peace. We ask maybe you remember in your thoughts also our first responders, our police and firefighters, those who look after and protect our communities at home. Now take a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Move on to our next item is public comment. This is the time that you're able to come forward to the microphone and address the City Council with any suggestions or ideas you might have, things that maybe need to be done in the city that's been overlooked. We would invite you, the time is yours now to do that. If you would come up and state your name. Try to limit to 3 minutes if you would. Time is yours. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations and reports. There's two things, just briefly. The Weber County Fair gets underway tomorrow. We were asked last night at our WACOG meeting to invite everyone to come to the fair. Sound like they'll have a good fair this year, and it's out at the Weber County Fairgrounds. Also ask to remind City Council of the Utah League in Cities and Towns Convention next month, and get with Jackie if you desire to go, and she will register you for that. Move on next to our second item under presentations and reports. Got a landslide update, Mr. Worthen.
Mayor, thank you. Just real quick, items, a few report items that happened since we last held the City Council meeting, Mayor, is we had Channel 2 do a story on the landslide. They mentioned city scheduled work that we were doing on lining some sanitary sewer lines in the neighborhood, intimating that that is a possible cause or contributing factor to water emanating from the toe or the scarp. We've long held that those are natural springs that have historically been there for many, many years. However, that's what the news story was on. That happened on the 18th. Also spoke to Sean Douglas about that work, and he had scheduled that way back in May. It's work that is done annually. It's done throughout the community. It's nothing unique. This just happened to be in the 600 West area that we were doing that sewer lining project. Sean felt that he could have communicated better to the public, but he says this is what we normally do throughout the entire community. Every year we line sewer lines that are degraded. In this case, there was infiltration by roots along some of the service connections, and so that was why this particular line was redone. On the 23rd of July, we visited the site again, walked down, do an inspection, contacted Ben Erickson at that time. Again, he's continuing to follow up, visiting the slide, doing measurements, both in the ground wells, the piezometers that we have there. We are noticing that there's a slight visual display of the accessory garage on the Donovan property that's evident. You can see that now, so it does continue to advance. It's reached that building at this point. Also spoke to Sean Douglas about plans that are in place if this thing continues to advance. At what point do we need to begin looking at rerouting the sewer line in the roadway, as well as some water lines that would be there? He has that in place. Spoke with Ben Erickson again on the 6th, which was just yesterday. Indicated his latest visit on Friday to the site. Measurements were taken, piezometer readings again evaluated, showing decreasing elevation of water level. He is noting undercutting of the scarp continues, but with less of advancement. In essence, he's indicated that there is slowing of the slough on the scarp, and that there is a slight more angled slope area that's actually growing some vegetation. Ben mentioned that he has more hope at this point of slowing or perhaps ending the erosion here in the future by what he's seeing there today. Ben indicated that he would again visit the area next week, which was this week now. So that's all I have, Mayor, on the slide at this point.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, Council, for Roger this evening? Moving on to item 3, we next have a report from our fire chief, Chief Shawley.
Thank you, Mayor. First and foremost, I'm going to get him out of here since he's on duty, but we had an opportunity of promoting another gentleman to captain, and we've decided to stay within the department and work with one of our own. He's been a firefighter for 11 years. He's been with Riverdale City for 7 years. He's been one of our driver operators over this last year and has done a phenomenal job. And recently, this last week, was on the fatal accident that you saw on the news, and was part of the rescue team that helped remove some people out of their vehicles on that extensive extrication. So Nate Tracy's here with us. We're going to do our annual swearing-in ceremony and take care of that when we do it all at once, because we've hired 4 additional part-time firefighters as well that we're training right now. His wife's here with him, Ashley, and Kentley's here, and they have another little girl on the way. So we're excited to get Nate moving forward and keeping everything within, which will open up another driver-operator position and a new full-time firefighter. So with that, it's a good thing for the department.
Great.
So, thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Yeah.
It's also been a very busy month for us. Roger wanted me just to kind of go over a couple things that we've had. We did have a successful resuscitation over the community center. We had one of our employees start CPR on one of our patrons over there, and with some bystander CPR before our guys got there. They were in the process of hooking up the AED. The guys arrived. They delivered 1 shock, and by the time they reached the hospital, the gentleman was talking to him. He recently walked in the fire station last week and shook some hands and is doing very well. Has probably a very good outcome. We'll see some more of that probably next council. We had a 2-alarm fire, which actually ended up resolving in one of our firefighters being transported to the hospital to help out Weber Fire District. We had 3 other fires that included a large fire in Ogden, Weber County area, that had a 100-gallon propane cylinder that was being compromised by heat and flames. We had multiple cylinders already exploding, and it's just been one of those months. A lot of things going down. We had 11 grass fires, 5 of which were in Riverdale. So on top of that, We've obviously had the consolidation conversations. You've seen some news reports. You've seen 2 News, I bet. You've seen Standard Examiner. And I sent out the email today in your guys, or the presentation, your guys' email today for review. And I am more than happy to answer any questions, have an open dialogue or discussion, and make sure you guys are clearly aware of some of the benefits to this. And then October 1st, we're going to have our open house. And so that will take place around 6, 7 o'clock on October 1st. We'll have a bunch of helicopters, we'll have food trucks, and we'll hopefully be as successful as it was last year. So there's the report, and you'll see more in my monthly report. Thank you, Mayor.
Any questions for the chief tonight? Pretty peaceful. It must be swim night tonight, huh? No? Okay. Congratulations, Nate, for that. That's great. I know we're all pleased to hear that, and wish you the best. Congratulations to you and your family, and keep up the good work.
Thanks, Mayor.
It's good. Okay, move on next to meeting minutes. We have the meeting minutes from July 17th, 2018, the City Council work session and City Council regular session minutes. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, move on to item 2, consideration to appoint Stacy Como as the city treasurer. Mr. Worthen.
Mayor, what this is since the resignation of our finance director, Cody Carden, we do need to, he was the city treasurer at that time, we do need to appoint a new city treasurer. I would make the proposal that we appoint Stacy Como as the city treasurer for Riverdale City, involved obviously in a lot of the financial transactions of the city. She's well qualified to take that on.
Any questions or comments on that? With that, do we have a motion on the consent items?
Motion to approve consent items.
Second?
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous in favor, Mrs. Manning. Move on to the action items. Move on to action item number 1. First of all is a public hearing tonight. This public hearing is to receive and consider public comments regarding an ordinance amending the Riverdale Municipal Code Title III by adopting a new chapter establishing food truck business regulations. Do you have any comments on this, Mrs. Manning?
No, just as what's in the packet.
Is there any questions for her this evening on this?
I had a couple. Sorry.
Let's before we get into discussion, maybe you just make presentation, then we'll do
That'll work.
do the public hearing first. I just wonder if you had any comments on what it was and why we're doing it.
So this is because Riverdale City did not formally allow food trucks into our city. The state passed a law saying that municipalities can no longer restrict their access. So in order to comply with the state and to also protect our wonderful city, this establishes guidelines as to where the food trucks can be located and how they can park, and just to kind of make sure that they're not creating traffic hazards and to help maintain the safety. So this is just in conjunction with state code and to protect the residents.
Okay. Okay, we'll open the public hearing then. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous in favor. Public hearing is now open. If you have any comments or questions, concerns with this Ordinance 901, you're welcome to come forward to the microphone and state your name. Seeing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The public hearing is now closed. Move on next to item number 1B, consideration of ordinance 901, amending the Riverdale Municipal Code Title III by adopting a new chapter establishing food truck business regulations. Mr. Hanson, you had some questions on this.
Yeah, just real brief. I was curious why the ice cream trucks and vending carts are separate.
So the state actually defines them as separate. They
Okay.
are not considered food trucks, so they.
So that's not us defining it.
Right.
Okay.
So the food truck definition that you have in there is in conjunction with state code, and like I said, they're separate.
Start over.
Thank you.
Curious about the limit the hours of operation. We do have some businesses that are open 24/7. Why limit these ones?
It was kind of in conjunction to the vending carts and the ice cream trucks, though they are different. They are similar in operation, so we were just trying to keep a level of consistency. I'm not married to that, so if you felt like you wanted to change that, that would definitely be something we could do.
Okay, that's all I had.
Are we gonna enforce that? If they're open after hours, are we gonna?
Like with most ordinances, it's kind of if somebody sees it and they call it and they issue a complaint, then we investigate it and we go and, does that make sense? It's not like I'm gonna be hiding in a bush with binoculars, making sure that everybody's only there within that allotted time frame. But it just gives us more, if it's in your ordinance, it gives us more code enforcement options.
Mr. Ellis?
So they would be informed about those hours of the ordinance, right?
Yes.
They would know about it. It's not we'd surprise them and say you shouldn't be open at this time. They are well aware of what they need to do.
Yes, and I've actually been in close contact with the food trucks, especially since we've had so many that have applied over the last month. And I've been sure to let every one of them know, hey, just so you know, we have an ordinance coming. I will be releasing all of the information. I have all their email addresses and contacts. So I've been in close contact with all of the food trucks. My goal is not to blindside anyone or make it seem like the Riverdale City's out to get them. It's just more for make sure we're all on the same page.
It's anticipated that it'll be tweaked because it's a brand new thing for everybody. There's not a lot of cities who have even passed one yet, surprisingly, since it was a state mandate a couple months ago. But some of these things we just got to play by ear. They can get a little carried away between music and lights and different things like that. And if you had that near your neighborhood, you wouldn't be too happy if we are going beyond those hours. I mean, that was kind of stretching a little bit more than what we allow in our parks, but it's not uncommon for us to put restrictions in there. And I thought 6 to 11 should cover most of those situations, I would think. So, but this will get tweaked. There's no question, and the law's probably even going to change, I think, at some point in time. So.
Mr. Mitchell?
So right now, the sales tax goes to the city that originally licenses the food truck,
Yes.
Yes.
correct?
Unless it's in conjunction with the special event, yes.
Or if they file with us the first time, then we would be considered that city. So
Right.
Would there be any benefit in being like the best city to file with? I mean, like,
we should give them a break on that. Like,
Well, I
that
know,
on
like-
corporations
Our fees
and
are a
stuff,
lot
so.
lower than
well, I think
a
we
lot
should
of other
advertise
cities.
that. Like, I know Utah's concealed carry permit used to be like the one you wanted nationwide, and so maybe we want to have the food truck permit that everybody wants, and then they can go sell in wherever, and we can get the tax revenue. So
It's slow.
I mean, it's a good idea. I don't know that the legislature thought some of that stuff out really well, but in kind of Riverdale City's original argument, at least that the mayor and Roger, when we were down at a lot of those legislative meetings, was our concern was exactly that, is you're coming in and you're using our people and our streets and our services, basically, if our cops have to show up and stuff, yet we get nothing back out of this. So there is some concerns there, obviously, and then our brick and mortars who are here paying taxes, and these guys aren't paying to us. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's got to start somewhere, I guess. So this is kind of our version of that.
I know they're a pretty close network, those food truck
They
guys,
are.
and so I think word would get around like, hey, Riverdale's the place to license. They're cheap, they're quick, they're easy, and then you're good to go.
So what if there was an incentive like that, but also an incentive if they do their business elsewhere? Get your license here and sell somewhere else, and we'll make it double cheap.
That's right.
Well, we are, I think,
I mean,
relatively inexpensive for that. So
We
who
are.
knows?
I mean,
we'll see how it
compared
goes.
to the other cities, honestly, our fees are low even without having an
Maybe
incentive.
you could give them a referral bonus too or something if they get a friend license. Like, hey, let's
Some of those guys
let's-
make some good money.
Yeah.
They do.
I mean, if we're gonna have to deal with the food truck thing, like let's do what the state
Yeah,
gave
they're
us. Like,
they're not going away. So
Staying pretty popular. Any other questions? Do we have a motion on, thank you, Mrs. Manning. Motion on ordinance 901.
I'd make a motion to consider approving ordinance 901, amending the Riverdale Municipal Code Title III by adopting a new Chapter 11, establishing food truck business regulations. I would prefer to strike C, the hours of operation. I think if we're going to allow businesses, I don't think we should separate them from anyone else. Personally, I think that the market will control that sufficiently, personally.
Okay.
I would second that.
Do we have a motion? We have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I think the noise and all that kind of stuff would be covered by our nuisance ordinance anyway. So if they got loud, they'd be calling the police anyway and shut them down. You think?
That stuff's in this ordinance. I did put a section in there on both lighting and noise. So, and it complies with our other statutes. So.
Any other discussion? Mrs. Manning, will you poll the council on the ordinance, please?
Councilmember Arnold?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Nay.
Councilmember Ellis?
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell?
aye.
It's 4 in favor, 1 opposed. The motion carries. Move on to action item number 2. Consideration of resolution 2018-21, amending the personal policies handbook, policy 11-4, compensatory time, comp time. Mrs. Como.
we are just asking to amend the compensatory time policy to allow our field training officers in the police department to receive an hour of comp time for each shift that they spend actively training a new police officer. Questions about the change?
Mr. Hanson.
So what constitutes a field training officer? Is that some kind of certification?
So yeah, they attend a training. It's a 24-hour training class that they go through that's put on through Post.
Is that like a certification that we used for advancing, like Officer 1, 2, 3?
No,
No,
it's not a
it's not required to
qualification.
move any of those.
No.
Okay. Just my first thought when I'm sorry, there wasn't a lot of questions answered in the packet, but when I read it, I'm like, oh, why this? It feels to me like a while back, with all due respect to Chief Shawley, when the fire department wanted extra PTO, just kind of 'cause. And then I was like, no, I mean, it's their job, right? Does any L1, do any other departments offer their senior employees a perk for showing the newbies what to do?
And just so you know, and really with field training officers, you don't have to have a certain amount of years. Like the guys we just sent, one of them only has 4 years. It's an excellent training to go through, even if you're not going to field train, because it does give you some supervisory skills and training. But the reason that I asked for this change was because most departments are compensating their FTOs, and there are a lot of extras that goes into field training. Every day we require them to write a daily observation report where they evaluate every single call the officer's on. They have to evaluate different categories, how he handled it. They have to write a synopsis of everything he did, and so there's a lot of work. They have extra meetings involved in it. And so to try and stay competitive with what other departments are doing, and because our officers have asked, hey, why can't we do this? That's why I started looking into it. A lot of departments pay more. They'll pay anywhere from 5 to 10% more on your paycheck. We didn't feel that was a good option because it's just hard to deal with for Stacy in HR. Some of them give comp time. There's a whole variety of things that are done out there. But this is also something, keep in mind, we may go 2 or 3 years without training someone. And usually we have 3 to 4 different, if we were to do a full 12-week FTO, we'd have about 4 different FTOs that would train over that 12-week period. And so it's not a lot of time that's going to be accrued there. Like one officer may accrue, or 4 hours. He may only train for a week, so he's going to get 4 hours of comp time for that week. So it's not this massive amount of time they're going to accrue.
And the comp time is 1-to-1, not like overtime would be 1.5.
Right.
But they're wouldn't be required to work any extra time otherwise not compensated for. I mean, they still work 10 hours either way, right?
Yep. Whatever the shift is. Yeah. It'd just be they'd get that 1 hour for each 10-hour shift that they're training.
All right, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Mr. Arnold?
And move to approve Resolution 2018-21, amending the Personnel Policies Handbook Policy 11-4 for comp time, as stated within the packet.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mrs. Manning, will you pull the council on the resolution, please?
Councilmember Hanson?
No.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Ellis?
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold?
Aye.
It's 4 in favor, 1 opposed. The motion carries. Moving on to action item number 3. Consideration of Resolution 2018-22, amending the online PTIF Public Treasures Investment Fund account management platform. Mr. Wortham.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, you addressed this just recently, or probably a month or 2 back. What this is by state code, the city has to authorize at least 2 individuals that have authority to make transactions or changes on the PTIF account of the city. With the resignation of our former city treasurer, we need to update that, and that's what is before you tonight, to authorize those names that are on the PTIF authorization of activity form.
Any questions from the council? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Mr. Arnold.
Move to approve Resolution 2018-22, amending the online PTIF Public Treasurers Investment Fund account management platform.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Mrs. Manning, will you poll the council on this resolution, please?
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Ellis?
Aye.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Aye.
Councilmember Arnold?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Aye.
Unanimous in favor. Thank you. Moving on to item H, discretionary items. Is there any discretionary business this evening? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
More people watching.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
2 of us are in.
So what you're saying?
Meeting's adjourned.
Riverdale City is quick, cheap, and
No.